It's time to hit social media for cash tags, and for that, we're going to welcome in Megan Brantley, the VP of Research at LikeFolio.com, and we have Jenny Horn back with us as well, Fast Market contributor.
Yeah, continue our conversation with Kroger. This is a company that has aggressively tried to really transform its business model to be more multi-channel, more online, definitely compete with Walmart, Target, a company we just talked about, but it's still lagging. So Megan, what are you seeing with your purchase intent data?
When we look at Kroger year over year, you're right. Previously, their growth has been driven by that digital channel, especially by curbside pickup and even home delivery of groceries. But, you know, when we're going in and looking at Q1, it's pretty flat year over year. You know, you see a little bit of weakness quarter over quarter, but that's to be expected as, you know, they're coming off of the holiday season. And, you know, we're starting to see some ramp up in regard to the second quarter as more people are spending money on groceries for the summertime. But overall, our data doesn't really have that much of an edge this quarter for Kroger because, you know, the purchase intent is down about 10%, but so is the stock. So, you know, we're kind of at a point where we feel it may be priced appropriately. So,
yeah, Megan, I'm with you. Here's the thing, from a trader perspective, right? If bad news is priced into the stock, that's okay then, right? Because then any relief in that bad news can be pretty substantially bullish in a name, right? If they discount this name like they've done from $32 down to 22 and change, you know, now at 23.68, this gives you a chance to nibble here on some stocks that may actually recover. And, you know, Kroger, say what you want about Kroger, it's a massive company. Mm-hmm. They've got a ton of stores. So, this company, though they may struggle short term and they're doing all this change that Megan talked about, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I kind of look at this too, like how many stocks right now outside of, I mean, really this space, the retail space,
right,
are basically on, you know, multi-year lows or within striking distance of them, with the market only, you know, at 0.5% or so,
right,
or 1% off of all-time highs. So if you're looking for value, let's say, this is an area that potentially they exist. But then when we look at your data here, Megan, it shows that there is maybe company-specific reasons for some of this sell-off too.
Exactly. I think that, you know, we really dove into the delivery and curbside pickup space just because we see such a macro trend to people utilizing that service. And what's interesting is, you know, Kroger was more of a first mover, but now we're seeing more competition, especially, you know, from the Targets and the Walmarts of the world. I think Walmart probably has the most to gain from this curbside pickup because, you know, if you have to go into a grocery store or pick up groceries, obviously, or I know myself, I'm going to want to go to a Kroger. But if I don't have to go inside Walmart, I might opt for that. And you can see in this chart, we actually have Walmart start to take the lead when it comes to grocery pickups and grocery deliveries, even over Kroger. And when I looked at the tweets, the common differentiator is people were talking about convenience and they were talking about a fee. You know, Walmart, you can pick up the groceries for free. For Kroger, you have a fee after your third order. So I think that that's something that Kroger may have to sort through to maintain that competitive edge.
Yeah, Megan, it's funny that you mentioned that because convenience was completely the differentiator I also saw on social media today with Walmart and Kroger. I mean, Walmart's a huge company. It seems like they've kind of mastered this space. But I mean, Kroger is doing what they can to kind of aggressively keep up. So our first tweet is from Lance and Polito, who says, Kroger getting CBD in 1,000 stores. My local health food stores have turned into CBD stores, it feels like. So this is one of the ways they're trying to transform, and this actually caught a lot of positive attention on social media today. I mean, no surprise there. Megan, did you see this at all today?
Yes, absolutely. You know, this is something I think you mentioned, a positive call. This is something they should probably hit on if I were them, because the CBD market, just as a macro, is exploding. When we look at the chart of people talking about buying CBD products, it's huge. And the fact that Kroger is kind of a first mover, especially in the grocery and, you know, in terms of like a larger retailer market. So I think that that positions well for them. I think in general, people like Kroger too. You know, their sentiment is pretty strong, even as they've grown. You know, they have high quality products. And so I think that if they can, you know, execute this well, this may be a good opportunity for them.
Remember, I looked it up, 2,700 stores Kroger has across the country. And by the way, a PE ratio of 6.2.
Now, is that including Mariano's? Is that including the whole Kroger brand, or is that just Kroger stores?
I think I'll have to look it up, but I don't, it just gave us a number, 2,700 supermarkets under a range of local banner names.
Because in Chicago, we don't have Kroger, we have Mariano's,
right,
which is, I think, a brand that's pretty well perceived. I mean, people love Mariano's in Chicago.
Do we know offhand here, Kevin, the comparison to how many stores maybe like a Walmart has for comparison? Because if we're looking at or I guess I can ask you that, Megan, looking at your data comparing Kroger versus Walmart, do we adjust at all for the scale and the size of Walmart, or is this just head to head?
This is head to head, at least the data in that chart, but I think that that's fair. I think it's probably very regional for people. You know, in Louisville, we have Krogers. I mean, you can't throw a rock without hitting a Kroger here. Like, I have 2 on my street. So, I think that convenience does play a factor into it. So if you're in an area where there are more Krogers, or where there are more variations of Krogers, like the Mariano's, like Jenny was talking about, then you might opt to shop there for some of the, private label brands and different offerings that they have. But if you're in a more rural area, maybe you don't have a Kroger, but you have a Walmart, I can see you totally opting in for that. So I think that that's something that, has to be taken with a grain of salt when you look at that chart.
I definitely think that grocery stores are a lot about proximity. If you're close to, you choose whatever you're close to. Honestly, I think you have brand loyalty based off what is around the block from you. At least I do, because I walk to get my groceries. But speaking of this kind of relationship between Mariano's and Kroger, our next tweet is from Brian York, who says, Kroger, stop demanding Mariano's go away with products. Allows them to stock what their customers buy without Wall Street input. It's always something today. No more bulk chorizo until corporate allows it again. I hate how you are ruining my grocery store, Kroger. So I don't know if Kroger is necessarily default for Mariano's not carrying chorizo, but there is definitely more positive noise on social media with Kroger than Mariano's, at least what I saw.
So I feel for Brian here is I have a very soft spot in my heart for chorizo myself, so that's some bad news there. But when I think of Mariano's, though, I really do think of like a Chicago grocery store, and like I can't think of one. There's no Walmarts in the city, and I know maybe out in the suburbs there's more Walmarts, and that's more of a presence. But inside the urban, city center of Chicago, Mariano's dominates that space. Whole Foods dominates that space. It isn't really a Walmart or a Target. A Target to some extent, but more for home goods, I would say, than groceries.
All right, I'm going to go full dad on all 3 of you, frankly,
I can't wait.
Because though I too have a soft spot for chorizo, I hate whiners. And so this is a whiny tweet. And so there, you ask my daughter, your friend, our family motto, whiners get nothing. I don't like whiners. That's why I discount that treat.
People were awfully whiny about their grocery stores this morning on
Megan,
Twitter.
you and I have talked about that, right? How you get more negative comments than positive. So I discount him because he's a whiner.
I mean, that is unfortunately the theme on social media every day. People love to complain.
No, and it seems to be continued here. The only thing I have to ask, if we can go back to the first chart that we had up, Megan, on the consumer purchase intent mentions, it does seem to be about, as correlated and flat as we've seen on any of your charts that you've provided us, over the several weeks here. But I do notice, that we started stock price a little bit lower. We peaked up for just a little bit before it came back down. When we're looking at this, and we've seen kind of steady as she goes with the consumer purchase intent mentions, the stock's been a little bit more volatile. When we see that happen, is that more to do with maybe Kroger specific issues, less so to do with maybe the consumers?
I think that that's fair. I think that one rollout we've been watching that was pretty unsuccessful was their Home Chef meal kits. I think that was a really big acquisition for them that maybe they haven't seen paid off, and maybe that got, that hit them a little bit last quarter. So at any point, when we're looking at purchase intent, it's pretty flat. It looks pretty priced correctly. But if there's any edge, it's almost a more bullish lean, just because the stock has fallen a little bit further than the purchase intent levels.
So a little bit of a cautiously bullish outlook in terms of Kroger going into this earnings announcement. But a lot of times, I know just talking to Andy and Landon, a lot of times that's just a wait and see what happens too.
Absolutely. It'll all come down to what the company reports.
All righty. We'll leave it there, Megan. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, guys.